Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A solution to homelessness or a broken promise? Tonight, we're hearing two sides of Proposition 1. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Governor Gavin Newsom was in San Diego today, appearing alongside local leaders to rally support for the proposition. KPBS reporter Melissa May talked to supporters as well as those opposed.
$6.38 billion, 11,150 new units, treatment beds, 26,000 outpatient beds.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says a yes vote on this measure would help people experiencing mental health crises get proper treatment and would expand mental health and addiction services for tens of thousands of Californians.
It's about you, everyone. Not just about those caregivers and professionals that will be supported with unprecedented workforce investments because of Proposition 1, but it's about you.
I had become homeless, unemployed, unemployable, had unaddressed mental illness, and if you don't realize, being homeless creates its own set of mental illness struggles.
Air Force veteran Sandy Borum says as a resident of Veterans Village of San Diego in 1999, she took advantage of several programs she describes as similar to those Proposition 1 would fund.
There's nothing extraordinary about me. What's extraordinary are the services that are provided to make ordinary people like me have extraordinary lives.
The American Civil Liberties Union opposes Proposition 1. Eve Guerra with ACLU of Southern California's Dignity for All project calls it a broken promise.
Proposition 1 would impose a new $6.4 billion bond to primarily fund forced treatment and institutionalization. So this funding would go to inpatient, locked and unlocked facilities, which are really the most expensive and least effective form of mental health treatment.
Garrow says Proposition 1 will cause thousands of Californians to lose access to life-saving mental health care, as that funding would be put into housing opportunities for the unsheltered.
It would provide housing for only about 3% of the total number of Californians who are unhoused on any given day. And that number is a small fraction of the number of Californians who become unhoused over the course of the year.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
Governor Newsom also announced more tax relief for those impacted by last month's flood. Earlier this week, the IRS announced that individuals and businesses in San Diego County now have until June 17th to file their federal tax returns. The governor says taxpayers have until October 15th to file returns with the state, but payments will be due on June 17th. It comes after a presidential major disaster declaration, which the governor hopes will lead to even more relief for flood victims.
We are in the current assessment process to make determination of eligibility across the spectrum. So that process is ongoing. But that emergency deck that was approved by FEMA and the president, and there was a lot of outreach directly, I assure you, to the White House, and tip of the hat, if you want to know full disclosure truth, to the president himself in terms of having your back in San Diego.
Impacted taxpayers may also be eligible to claim a disaster loss on their tax return in one of two ways. They may claim the loss for the 2024 tax year when they file their return next spring, or they may claim the loss against 2023 income on this year's return. Another resource will soon be available for victims of the January 22nd flood. FEMA worked with the state, county, and city of San Diego to establish 2 disaster recovery centers. They will open tomorrow tomorrow at the Spring Valley County Library and the Mountain View Community Center. The centers will be open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Flood victims can apply for federal assistance through April 19th.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up tonight, we'll see the clouds moving on in as temperatures drop into the 50s, tracking a large Pacific storm slamming the west coast that eventually will bring areas of rain, mountain snow, and windy conditions. Drier and warm weather, though, will be returning. We'll have a closer look coming up.
At least 2 people have died in catastrophic fires across the Texas Panhandle. The fire has grown to become the largest wildfire in the state's history as it continues to threaten more homes, cattle, and lives. As Ivan Rodriguez reports, residents face a long recovery.
Holy cow.
The small town of Fritz, Texas, now charred and covered in ash.
It's kind of helpless.
Fritz was caught in a cross-section of several wildfires burning across the Panhandle. The largest of those blazes, the Smokehouse Creek Fire, has burned more than 1 million acres so far in Texas and Oklahoma, making it the largest fire on record in the Lone Star State, officials confirmed Thursday. Add to that at least 4 other wildfires, burning tens of thousands of additional acres.
It's truly heartbreaking because their home is a symbolic of what's happened all over the county here.
Agricultural agent Andy Holloway estimates around 80% of the land in just one county has burned, and 5,000 heads of cattle have been killed, numbers that could rise in the region as damage assessments come in over the days ahead. And then there's the grim task of searching burned homes.
There's a chance that there may be people that did not survive and were trapped by the fire.
Several school districts have canceled classes for the rest of the week, with some now turned into donation drop-off centers.
It's really overwhelming just to see that outpouring of support.
As the firefighting efforts continue, there is one thing that cannot be touched by the flames.
Community's been through this before, and so, we pulled together then, and I know we'll pull together again.
Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
Dueling border visits in Texas today. Both President Biden and former President Donald Trump travel to U.S.-Mexico border as immigration remains a key issue in the 2024 presidential race. The White House is considering new restrictions on border asylum claims, while Trump returns to a theme which helped propel his 2016 campaign. Mike Valerio explains.
Nice weather, beautiful day, but a very dangerous border. We're going to take care of it.
In a remarkable moment, a current and former president visited different sectors of the U.S. southern border on Thursday, highlighting a central issue of the 2024 presidential race, border security and surges of migration.
Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people. And let's remember who we are. We're the United States of America.
Former President Donald Trump traveled to Eagle Pass, a flashpoint in the border security standoff between Texas and the federal government. It's where Republican Governor Greg Abbott had the National Guard install razor wire and physical barriers, bypassing federal authority.
The United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country.
Trump has made Biden's handling of illegal immigration a centerpiece of his reelection effort. Yet after Republicans tanked a bipartisan border deal in early February, largely due to opposition from Trump, the Biden campaign has a potential new angle.
What House Republicans have done is nothing, absolutely nothing. If anything, they consistently get in the way.
Biden's Brownsville visit comes as he considers new executive action to restrict migrants' ability to seek asylum at the southern border if they crossed illegally. The action under consideration appears to be an extension of some of the toughest measures in the failed border bill. I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
And meanwhile, hundreds of migrants continue to be dropped off by Border Patrol to transit stations, and that's when volunteers take over to help how they can. Since the closing of the Migrant Welcome Center, volunteers have tried to create a system to help them get to Old Town, and that is where many of them will be given domestic phone lines, and some will be guided to get to the airport.
We welcome anywhere from like 4 to 5 buses every morning, and then there's also buses in the afternoon. These are all funded by organizations. It is not funded by any level of government.
The County Board of Supervisors approved a plan on Tuesday to develop a federally funded long-term migrant center. Escondido has adopted a new controversial policy on homelessness. It rejects a housing first model. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says instead it takes a tough on crime approach.
I'm asking you to consider not criminalizing homelessness.
Resident and social worker Kimberly Walker was one of a small group of public commenters who voiced concerns about the policy before the vote.
Is you're making all of the homeless sound like addicts, and that is not the case. A lot of the homeless that are here in Escondido today are families. They're families of 2 working adults that make minimum wage.
Escondido Mayor Dane White and Councilmember Joe Garcia drafted the new policy statement, which says it supports a public safety first approach. It goes on to call housing first a one-size-fits-all approach that has proven ineffective and unsustainable, with the exception of seniors. We asked White for an interview, but he was not available. In 2022, he told KPBS he has lived experience with substance abuse and being homeless. Garcia did talk to us. He says this policy tries to balance compassion and enforcement.
So as part of the policy, we designed specific areas that we were going to work with. That's another thing that we'd like to do, is to deal with the hotspots, where are the areas that we have more homeless population, more encampments.
During Wednesday's meeting, White and Garcia both reiterated crime statistics, drug abuse issues, and mental health concerns in the city's homeless population.
If this policy doesn't create more places for people to go, we won't be making any progress.
Greg Angel is the CEO of Interfaith Community Services, which is the largest homeless service provider in the city. He attended the meeting and is concerned about how the policy could impact his organization.
The reality is, in Escondido, there are no available shelter beds. The treatment beds are full. There are not places for people to go.
The policy statement stresses the need to help Escondido's specific unsheltered population before helping homeless residents from other areas. But Garcia admits the city's budget deficit could add challenges.
At the same time, we're looking at creative ways how we can put shelters, available beds in Escondido, or other means of where they can be safe and protected from the elements.
The 2023 point-in-time count found 304 unhoused people in Escondido. It's the largest population of homeless residents in North County. The city's new policy passed on a 4-1 vote. Jacob Ayers, KPBS News.
Today is Leap Day. It's a bonus day every 4 years, but why do we do it? And what happens if you're born on the rarest birthday of all? Michael Yoshida explains the importance of February 29th and why the people born on this day want you to leap on board.
February 29th marks Raynell Dawn's Sweet 16.
I'm sweeter 16 this time because this time I've been kissed. So need me, feed me. I'll be 64.
She's one of an estimated 5 million people known as leaplings or leapers, who only have a birthday every 4 years.
We're a pretty rare breed, 1 in 1,461.
Leap Day is a curious calendar quirk that serves a big purpose.
A year doesn't divide evenly into days, and we need to figure out something to do about that.
Our calendar has 365 days because that's pretty much how long it takes the Earth to orbit the sun. But in reality, the number is actually around 365.242 days. And over time, that 0.242 adds up.
If we didn't have a leap day, then the months would gradually rotate around until January was in spring and May was the middle of summer.
But this important solution still poses problems.
The computer systems aren't leapified, not all of them. When we go online and try to sign in, when we put our birth date in, a little window pops up and says, invalid date.
Dawn says it's her mission to give the date the respect it deserves and remind people to leap on board with Leap Day.
Leap Day is everyone's extra day. So use it wisely and do something fun with it.
Congress appears to have once again avoided a partial government shutdown, at least for now. The House voted on a stopgap bill that will kick the deadline to pass a full budget for the year further into March. Several federal agencies would have run out of money at midnight. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expects his chamber to vote on the continuing resolution tomorrow evening. The new deadlines are March 8th and the 22nd. The March 5th primary election pits two candidates from the major parties against each other in the 74th Assembly District. KPBS reporter Thomas Fudge tells us about the race in the San Diego district that stretches into southern Orange County.
Assembly District 74 includes Vista and Oceanside, along with San Clemente and Laguna Niguel in Orange County. It's a swing district where Republicans and Democrats have nearly even numbers of registered voters. Republican Lori Davies is the incumbent. She serves in a legislature that has Democratic supermajorities in both houses, but she says that doesn't prevent her from serving her district.
I tell people, leave your politics and your party at the door. Let's talk policy. That's what we're up here to do. And again, I've now, in the last 3 years, I have 15 bills signed into law and a lot of Democrats co-authors. So you know what? What's nice is you actually have to get people on board. That's what Californians want.
Democratic challenger Chris Duncan is a member of the San Clemente City Council. He lost to Davies in the 74th 2 years ago. He believes he would be more effective than Davies, working with a majority in Sacramento on California's $58 billion budget shortfall. He says he doesn't have a fix for it.
What I do think is that we have a lot of programs and a lot of things that we've thrown money at, homeless being one of them, that we haven't seen any return on. And we need to, and the governor has actually spoken a little bit to this, we need to make sure that the programs that we're investing in are ones that really have a tangible return, something that we can actually see the benefits of. And if not, then that program needs to be going away.
For more information on the candidates and other primary elections, check out the Voter Hub at kpbs.org. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
The Sierra Nevada mountains are expected to get walloped by a storm system predicted to dump huge amounts of snow this coming weekend. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says that should help boost the amount of water that's stored there.
The Sierra snowpack is deeper since the first of the year, but it remains below average for March. California officials took the third official snowpack reading at the Phillips Station near Lake Tahoe this morning. They found nearly 4 feet of snow.
The snow water content of 18 inches. That's about 1.5 feet. If you took 48 inches, melted it down, that's essentially 18 inches of liquid water that we're standing on right now.
California's winter snowpack was pretty anemic when measurements were taken in January. Weeds poked through the thin snow cover as officials measured. That has changed thanks to some powerful storms earlier this year. The current snowpack is 74% of what was expected here by April.
That's typically when we peak. Our snowpack builds during December, January, February, March, and then the snow angle, temperatures start to build, the radiation's right, and our pack becomes ripe to melt, and that's when we start seeing a decline in our pack, typically.
The snowpack is a critical water source for California, supplying about 1/3 of the state's fresh water. State officials track snowfall at more than 260 locations in the mountains in an effort to get an accurate reading of how much water is being stored.
So far, the storms that have helped build our snowpack have been at an ideal pace that we like to see. They've been spread out enough to allow relief for our river systems. This is quite different than last year, where we received several atmospheric rivers back to back, which ultimately caused flooding impacts across the state.
The Sierra Mountains are expected to get dumped on this coming weekend. Forecasters say a major winter storm could drop as much as 12 feet of snow in some locations. Even so, state water officials say it'll take more winter weather in March to bring snow totals up to peak averages in April. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And lots to track on our weather headlines as we track this large Pacific storm moving in through the west coast, bringing strong winds, heavy rain, and feet of mountain snow. Eventually looking ahead to next week. To start next week, drier and warmer weather, but maybe another precip chance again by the time we head into the middle of next week. Taking a look at tonight as clouds roll into San Diego down to 54. Borrego Springs, you'll still be mostly clear at 50 degrees. And we'll see some clouds overnight into Mount Laguna down to 38. Oceanside 52 and Chula Vista, you'll be down into the 50s. High pressure over the Four Corners. We're still dry throughout the day on Friday, but look at the setup here in Northern California, Central California, dealing with the rain and showers and that heavy mountain snow continuing to push on in for several days. So we'll enjoy the nicer weather, especially across the deserts tomorrow. Borrego Springs 75, Mount Laguna only 45. More clouds moving into San Diego at 65 degrees and Chula Vista and Oceanside down into the mid-60s. Throughout the day on Saturday, the rain sinks farther south, so Southern California, as here in San Diego, we'll be dealing with the rain at least to start the weekend and those windy conditions, especially as you head further inland and through the deserts as we head into the day on Saturday. So taking a look at the next couple of days, the weekend, unfortunately, a bit of a washout at times, cloudy with showers along the coast on Saturday, a shower or two on Sunday, and then drier weather with clouds decreasing as we head into the start of the week. Let's take a look at the 5-day outlook further inland here, as it's going to be a cool and rainy day on Saturday. A high of only 62, 61 as we head into the day on Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday we'll start to see those clouds beginning to decrease. As we look ahead to the mountain forecast over the next couple of days, the winds pick up on Friday. We're still dry though, and then we'll see a little bit of mixed precip as we head into the day on Saturday. A high of only 40. Windy, wet conditions as we head into the day on Saturday. Still dealing with the wind, but colder and clearer conditions move in by Tuesday. Wrapping things up into the desert, the wind's really going to pick up through the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
On the Chinese calendar, it is the Year of the Dragon, but it's the luck of the lion that was celebrated today at a special school groundbreaking. Bernard Mandarin Magnet Elementary in Pacific Beach offers a Chinese immersion program to students through the 5th grade. Some of the students performed a traditional lion dance on campus this morning to mark the beginning of a modernization project. The renovations will include updated classrooms, a multi-purpose building, and an expanded parking lot with safer student drop-off and pickup lanes. Bernard also offers Chinese arts programs like traditional dance, calligraphy, and Tai Chi. And there is healing happening right now at one high-tech high campus in Claremont Mesa, but the medicine is poetry in motion. KPBS education reporter MG Perez brings us the story of a new curriculum promoting positive mental health for students.
Something kind, weird, and wild is about to happen in this classroom at High Tech High Mesa. And these 9th grade students are filled with curiosity, caution, and uncertainty.
To discover who I am and where I want to be, to meet, challenge, and face these demons running me.
Meet Kind, Weird, Wild. That's his name. He describes himself as a visionary artist who uses his creativity for self-awareness and emotional regulation. He does art and music, but it's the power of his poetry he will use today.
All you gotta do is see it in your mind and climb one step at a time, and you'll find that you choose to be happy. If your life is crappy, well, you could shape a new life, but you better make it snappy.
It's never been something that's really stood out to me as like an art form.
15-year-old freshman Vincent Silvestro was skeptical. It's a hard turn from his love of physics to poetry, but he's open to let his head connect to his heart.
But everyone has had kind of bad thoughts and self-destructive ideas in their mind. And it's really awesome to see it expressed in what looks like a positive way.
This is the first in a weekly class of poetry healing curriculum. Kind, Weird, Wild is the invited headliner of Poets Underground, a nonprofit arts community born online during the COVID shutdown and now expanded to weekly open mic nights and a small poetry publishing company. It is owned and operated by a married couple. Sunny Ray.
So Poets Underground mission is to create and foster healthy, inclusive communities through the arts.
And her husband, Anthony Azarito.
When I was in high school, I didn't have anybody to tell me this is how you do this with emotions. This is, you know, A, B, C.
Both are published poets, former single parents, and survivors. Sunny grew up unhoused and in foster care. Anthony was an angry young boy looking for love and acceptance. They found each other and blended their families with 5 children combined. Now they're sharing their stories, talent, and healing with students. Sunny creates this way.
Can I take a few breaths as I'm writing this? Because even the way poetry is written, it's within your particular blueprint. The way that you breathe breaks up lines. So you're able to kind of breathe through the moment.
Anthony brings a slow light to the darkness.
Keeping everybody in the silence and pretending that everything's fine isn't going to be the way how we heal. So we bring it up in these fun, interactive ways.
The poetry healing class is created in partnership with lesson plans from teachers as they address their students' mental health. High-Tech High Mesa is the first. Poets Underground is raising donations to take it to more schools because the experiment is working, according to 14-year-old Lily Malik Najad.
I loved it. I really liked it, and it shocked me because I was like, I feel like this was true poetry. It was definitely expressive.
Freshman Danny Valentine says the class has already inspired her own writing.
So when you're writing things that have such a burden or have such that heaviness, it kind of hurts to end it, or it's kind of a lie to kind of end it in a happy outcome when that's not where you're at that moment.
Turns out, kind, weird, and wild works.
You want to know who you are? Write something down and read it back.
MG Perez, KPBS News.
There is healing happening right now at one High-Tech High campus in Claremont Mesa, but the medicine is poetry in motion. KPBS education reporter, we did that story. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Mexico also has a presidential election this year. On NPR's Morning Edition, efforts to get more of the 12 million Mexican citizens living in the U.S. to cast ballots. And then on KPBS Roundtable, that's focusing on homelessness in San Diego County. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you.